I'm talking about the full-on GOP effort to change voting laws that could have a dramatic effect next year. 25 voter suppression laws have passed in 14 states this year alone. They're aimed at everything from shrinking early voting periods and passing photo ID requirements to restricting voter registration. It's a full court press to restrict voting, which is a fundamental civil rights. Republicans justify these laws by harping on about voter fraud. But a 5-year study by the Bush Justice Department found only 86 cases of fraud out of more than 3 million votes cast. That's 0.00003%. An imaginary problem with a very threatening solution. Joining me now, two champions for voters everywhere. Ben Jealous, president of the NAACP. Labor giant George Gresham, president of 1199 SEIU, United Healthcare Workers East, an advocate for voter rights. George, this is a civil right, whether you're a Democrat, Republican.
That's right.
The reason that the labor and civil rights groups, along with you and SEIU and NAACP and National Action Network, all of us, are all coming together is because this really undermines the voting rights movement in this country.
Absolutely. What's happening right now in this country, it seems that the powers that be want to take away what we've worked years and years for. You know, I grew up in the South in segregation and watched the civil rights movement achieve what working people need together. And just when we came together in 2008, working people all around the country to vote for hope, to stand up for something for working people, they're changing the rules now, and they're bringing it back to the bad old days, talking about voter fraud. The only fraud is the idea that there is voter fraud as a way to suppress the vote in the country.
Ben, one of the things they're using is photo ID. In the report, the NAACP and the Legal Defense Fund has come out with, you outlined many of those areas. I was in Florida over the weekend. They are stopping Sunday voting in states like Florida where you had sold to the polls. Yep. And you've come out in the report with, in photo ID, African Americans 25%, Latino Americans 16%, white Americans 8%. This is skewed in a way that directly affects minorities at a higher impact, which really will flip a lot of those districts.
No, that's right. And as you said, you know, it's really a series of attacks going on across the country.
Karl Rove has made no bones about there's a political strategy to this, and I think people need to understand that. Let me show you. Karl Rove openly wrote about targeting black voter turnout in the Wall Street Journal, an op-ed that he wrote, why Obama is likely to lose in 2012. He writes, even a small drop in the share of black voters would wipe out his winning margin in North Carolina. Yes. So if you look at the states that Ben is talking about and that we all are raising, and you bring down a percentage just based on voter ID or any of the other things, you wipe out the margin of victory in some critical states for the Democrats.
Absolutely. And what they can't do, what they can't deal with is they can't win with the issues. They know that working people in this country are starting to get fed up when you see the 99% movement, when you see working people of all stripes standing up together. In 2008, there was something that many of us thought that we would never see, that people stood up for hope, that people in this country said, despite the fact of color, we're going to go for people that work for us, that we can't afford no longer to be stuck on the issue of race. We need to be stuck on the issue of class, of working class. And so they can't beat us with the issues, so now they change the games. They change the game, they change the rules, but I can tell you right now, all they're doing in this country is waking up working people. They're not going to get away with it. We're going to arm our people to make sure that they have what it takes to get vote. But we need the public to stand up. We need the public to stand up and say, we're not going back to those old days again. We're not going back back to the days when people were stopped from voting in the South, whether there was poll tax or whether there were education tests that people had to do. Similar things are happening now. They're just trying to do it in a different, more intelligent way, and under the disguise that they're trying to protect working people. That's as phony as when you have a right-to-work state that makes it hard for people to organize, and saying that you're doing that for working people is a sham.
Just like the Confederate flag still flies at the state capitol in South Carolina, a strong, poisonous political spirit of radical extremism is flying over and through our nation's democracy. Tell your neighbor, you pay attention today. Every victory we have won and yet need to win is under attack. And it is our calling on our watch to protect the right to vote and maximize the potential of our vote like only the NAACP can. So, this plenary today is not a one-time filler on the program. This plenary today must be a war room where we sound the call to arms. This plenary must be reproduced back home in every branch meeting, in every state conference, in every church, and at every community event. This plenary must be our political Pentecost and our upper room where we have come for inspiration and we are filled with a fresh spirit. We get information and we decide here and now that Rome nor any other manifestation of political oppression never has the last word. We've come for inspiration, we've come for information so that we can go back north, south, east, and west and engage in implementation of a get out to vote effort that will make our foremothers and forefathers' sacrifice worthy of the sacrifice. We will be anointed as ambassadors of justice, declaring that dark Fridays even come politically, but resurrection is always possible. Now is the time for us to have courage. Now is the time for us to rise up. Now is the time for us to fight back and show this nation that the sons and daughters of freedom fighters make one promise to America for which we will never retreat. When it comes to our rights, ordained by God, guaranteed by the Constitution, we will work together and we will never, ever, ever go back. Touch three people and tell them never will we go back. Somebody shout forward. Together. Not one step. Not one step. Not one step. Back.
Never.